Now, was there anything more inevitable in snooker than Ronnie O'Sullivan going over to a brand new invitational event and winning it? It's something that he has made basically a career out of. When we talk about these events where it's just the top players in the world playing against each other, one table set up, big cash up for grabs, more or less, O'Sullivan is going to win it. Look at his record at the Masters, look at his record at the Shanghai Masters, look at his record at the Champion of Champions, even going to the Hong Kong Masters, he's won that as well. When there's a massive cash prize and he's on one table, all focuses on him and he's playing his fellow top players, it just brings out another side of him. And he's been in incredible form already this season. We know that. He'd already won 4 titles. But the ease that he won this tournament is potentially what his fellow top players are going to be most concerned about going into the World Championship. Because he played 3 matches. He annihilated John Higgins 4-0. He made 3 centuries and an 80 break. He then plays Judd Trump, the other informed player of the season. He beats him comfortably 4-1. And then you go into the final against Luca Bracel, and there wasn't really too many issues there either. He wins that 5-2. 5 tournaments for the season, and he's showing absolutely no signs of slowing up. I think his win percentage this season is something stupid, like 86%. And look, I've reviewed all of the tournaments that he's won this season. There's nothing else to add. The only thing left, really the only question left, is can he bring this into Sheffield? Can he win number 8? And if there is any doubt whatsoever amongst anyone that he's not the GOAT, winning number 8 would just solidify that. He already is. We know that. Any logical snooker fan knows he is the GOAT. But yeah, that's the only thing left on his list. Can he go one ahead of Hendry and then hold every single record conceivable? And on that showing, yes. The only thing that's stopping O'Sullivan, I know the famous quote is, the only thing that can stop Ronnie is Ronnie himself. There's obviously other players playing well, Judd Trump, and then you've got players that always play well at the Crucible, Watt Selby, John Higgins, etc. So, it's not a formality, but this is just more evidence that he is going to be so difficult to stop in Sheffield next month. But probably the main talking point of this tournament was the tournament itself. Obviously, I've made a video last week about the Saudi Arabia Masters that's starting next season for the 10-year deal, full ranking event open to the entire tour. And this week was kind of like a little test run for that tournament. I'm not entirely sure if where this tournament was staged in Riyadh is where the next ranking tournament is going to be staged. I'd imagine it will be. But yeah, this was a chance to get insight into what that tournament is going to look like. And other than the first day, where there were a few issues, in general, it was a pretty good tournament. You're pretty much guaranteed entertainment when you've got the very best players in the world on current form playing against each other. I don't really think there's any pressure on it, to be honest. I know there's huge money up for grabs, and that obviously puts a little bit of pressure on. But, this is effectively a glorified exhibition tournament for them. In a similar vein to the Hong Kong Masters, but the Hong Kong Masters been played in front of 9,000 people. This week was significantly less. But it was in terms of the tournament and in terms of what people were concerned about, pretty successful, I'd say. That there was a good turnout in terms of the audience. The first day was a little bit shaky. There was I think 20 people max there for the sort of preliminary rounds. But once you got to the quarterfinals and onwards, it was a pretty well supported tournament. I don't think anyone can really criticise it. The one glaring mistake that happened was when Higgins was on a 1-6-7 potentially. And then for some reason, I don't know if they were audience members or if they were like waiters just walking around, but John Higgins on the final black to go up towards the colours, and then you've just got half of the audience walking around, which was a bit weird. I suppose you can say, most of these fans aren't going to be entirely used to the etiquette of the sport. So, I'm not going to hold that massively against them, because that really was the only one time that happened in the tournament. And, look, China always had an issue with mobile phones going off. Pretty much every time we went to China, there'll be one or two per match. So, it's not the first time something of a similar vein has happened. And because it was an exhibition tournament, I don't think anyone really cared all that much. But yeah, I don't think there's too much to complain about, really. I know off table and all the politics that go with a tournament being held in Saudi Arabia and the sports washing and whatnot, you can make video after video about that. This is more designed to see what a snooker tournament is going to look like in Saudi Arabia. And from this test run, pretty positive. Judd Trump came out. He said that it was better than some atmospheres in the UK. I know that didn't go too well with some fans, but I do get where he's coming from. I don't think the atmosphere was incredible, at least not from what you can get from the TV. And obviously what you get from the TV and what you get live is going to be completely different. But yeah, the atmosphere didn't seem unbelievable. But there are times, even in the UK, very recently even, you go to tournaments early on and there's more empty seats than not. So, I don't think that's a completely invalid point that Judd's made. It's not like the atmosphere rivals the World Championship or the Masters or the UK Championship or whatever. But I also don't think it's just a completely fake comment he's made to boost the tournament overall. Snooker did obviously make a very clear point about promotion of this tournament. I don't think I've seen as many tweets or as many Instagram posts as they made during that 3-day event. Like I say, I'd liken this tournament very similar to the Hong Kong Masters in terms of it's just the highest players played against each other. Not really much at stake other than a big cash prize. But, no one's exactly going to remember them for it. But this tournament was advertised far, far more, and obviously there's a Saudi angle that was worked into there as well. But yeah, I enjoyed what I saw of it. There were some really good matches. Okay, most of the matches involving O'Sullivan were walkovers, but Judd Trump against Sean Murphy was a really good match. Mark Allen against Mark Selby. I mean, those two are always guaranteed to get to a decider. They got to a decider. It was a really good decider as well. But yeah. From my point of view, it was a positive tournament. It's going to be completely different next season, where you're going to have 128 players. It's not just going to be the very best. And I suppose the one thing is, the preliminary rounds, the opening sort of 2, 3, 4 matches wasn't amazing support. Is it going to be like that for the ranking event when you've got, players lower down the rankings than what was on offer this week? I don't know. That's all to be seen. But yeah, like I say, from my point of view, a very positive week. And yeah, let's see where it goes next season. It's still not going to be a major. It never will be. But in terms of an event, it was pretty good.